Craig Dewar from the product marketing team, and today we're going to talk about our next Level 200 product deep dive covering the topic of UiPath Robots. After the end of this course, you should be able to position the UiPath robot in the market, talk about the robot's unique capabilities, be able to position the future product roadmap highlights coming in the next release, and also have a good view into the different additional resources you can follow up on in the robot. UiPath robots are the most versatile digital workforce in the industry. We make this claim for a number of different reasons, which we'll get to in a little bit later in the presentation. But first of all, let's talk about some of the key capabilities of UiPath robots. The first thing to know about them is this is the digital workforce for automation. Robots are the actual application that executes the automations that you have previously developed in Studio, and they do that in accordance with the schedule and rules that you've defined in Orchestrator for managing that digital workforce. UiPath robots are able to operate in a couple of different contexts. They can be either attended mode or unattended mode, and we'll talk more about what that means and why it's important. And the final thing about our robots that's critical is the extensibility of them. Using our partner ecosystem and bringing in the more than 350 different drag and drop activities available inside of UiPath Studio, UiPath robots can essentially automate any different line of business application or any different process that exists. So let's talk about a few of the components in terms of the technology behind our robots. The three things we want to cover here. First one is Citrix automation. Now, many customers that automate business processes have those processes running in virtualized environments, and the most popular in this space is Citrix. Our robots are uniquely able to automate Citrix environments using a number of different techniques, including computer vision or the ability to read images on the screen and do so very quickly. So we have the fastest and most robust Citrix automation. I mentioned this already, but the robots are able to use computer vision and intelligent OCR to be able to read screens for user interface and also screens for documents. And this is a capability we've had for some time, usually in association with partner OCR engines. We are investing in this area in AI, and we'll talk about that shortly. And then the final thing for our robots that really makes them versatile and allows them to automate a wide variety of processes is the work we're doing to add AI-based skills for robots. So we say our robots are learning new skills, and this allows them to automate more. We'll go and talk about the AI capability in a bit more detail now. So what we're doing in the AI space is we are building a number of core AI-powered skills directly into UiPath robots, and we call these embedded skills. So you can see here there are 4 areas of investment for embedded skills. The first is visual understanding. Visual understanding allows the robot to look at user interface that appears on the screen and read that just as you would, and understand what fields are there, what text is being displayed, what buttons are available to click on, and do all of that without needing access to the underlying Windows driver-based selector approach, just doing it via image recognition. Second embedded skill we're working on is document understanding. So the ability to read not just very structured tabular information, but also semi-structured and unstructured data, and be able to pass out of that the right information for fulfilling automation. So an example might be invoices and reading invoices. Then we're investing in process understanding, the ability for the robot to actually understand a process that's being executed in a machine and automate that process just by looking at it and learning it. And then finally, conversational understanding, so the ability for the robot to actually understand text-based inputs and interact with people. So they're skills we're building into robots uniquely. We also enable our robots to be extended with AI skills, and we do that in 2 ways. One is a custom skill. So a custom skill is something that a customer builds themselves. They may have built an AI model internally using their own data and their own process understanding. They can bring that model that they've built directly in and use it from within a UiPath robot. And then finally, we have ecosystem skills. So we have more than 60 different AI partners today that bring in different skills that are industry focused or cover other areas that we're not targeting with our embedded skills. And these enable you to go after very specialized, broad set of processes across any industry and any particular use case. So in terms of learning more about the AI strategy, which is a really important component of the overall platform, there is a detailed AI course that will lead you through all of this and provide a little additional context. As I mentioned earlier, there are two main types of robots: unattended robots and attended robots. An unattended robot is one that automates a back office set of processes, and it runs in a machine, often headless, in a virtualized or server environment, and it automates processes that don't require any cooperation or touch from humans. We'll talk more about some example processes shortly. A second kind of robot is an attended robot. An attended robot actually runs on a PC used by a worker, a human worker, and it collaborates with them to help them do specific business activities. And so a human might do a certain set of work, and then they might ask the robot to take on particular tasks and processes for them, speeding up the repetitive front office tasks that they need to work on. And we'll talk through some of those use cases shortly. So some of the typical use cases for attended robots, those cooperating with humans in the front office. Things like user data retrieval. If you think about a contact center, customer calling in, based on the number of the customer, it's going to go out and bring back a bunch of different information about that particular contact. Customer refunds, processing a refund. When that needs to happen, they collect a little bit of information and then they can send that robot off to complete the task. Employment history in HR, providing on-screen guidance for a person to step them through work that needs to be done. Standard reports that have to be created on a monthly basis, maybe automating data entry out of something like Excel. The kinds of things that workers that people are working on and need assistance with. Now here are some typical use cases we see with unattended robots, those that are running in the back office entirely on their own. Invoice processing. An invoice comes in, the robot reads it, the robot queues the invoice for payment in the system of record that takes care of financial transactions. Reading social media posts and putting together reports based on different content there. Handling customer complaints. And then routing those to the correct departments and people that need to take action. Employee onboarding in HR, all of the different paperwork that we do when we start with a company in terms of our compensation, health insurance systems, so on and so forth. Payment checks, so being able to do one-off payments and cut checks for people. And then things like data collection. So any kind of back office process that you can imagine. Let's talk about some of the items that differentiate UiPath robots from our competitors. Firstly, there's rapid scaling. Our ability to take robots and go from a single robot with a single process being automated and scale up very large implementations to thousands of robots and thousands of processes being automated is something that is much easier on our platform with our robots than it is with the competition. Complete automation coverage. I talked earlier about the fact that we have both attended and unattended robots. Many of our competitors only offer one form of robot. They can do attended or unattended. They're unable to do both. It's a unique differentiator that our platform can support both use cases for customers. GDPR compliance. Our robots can run under lock screen and automate GDPR compliant processes where even in an attended use case, a human should not be able to see particular information that the robot has access to. Not all of our competitors are able to do that. We talked quite a bit about Citrix automation earlier. Citrix automation, as I mentioned, is a critical case that shows up in many of the industries and processes we automate. We have a unique ability to more accurately and more quickly do Citrix-based automation than our competition. Computer vision, something that we pioneered in the industry and continue to move the state of what is possible forward with our AI-based approach. So anything that requires image-based computer vision automation is uniquely differentiated for us. And then finally, the ability to do both Microsoft Office and also Google G Suite use cases is also something that's quite unique to UiPath Robots. Now, of course, most people can do Microsoft Office-based automation, but our recently released G Suite connector, which gives us the same set of API-based access that we have in a Microsoft Office environment, is a unique differentiator for our platform. Talk about the 2019 robot roadmap highlights. These are 3 areas that we're working on for the next release coming out. First is, while we have a great capability with Citrix automation today, given how important it is and how often it shows up in customer business processes, we're also working on improving this further and supporting Citrix Zen Desktop as a environment for programmatic selector automation. We're adding a robot API which will enable teams to build directly into robots and expand the ability for attended use cases. And finally, we're expanding our browser support, so making sure that whatever browsers customers have standardized on, our robots are able to work with web applications in that environment.